Now this time, you guys, he did kind of trick me because he didn't say anything, and he knows that I can't stand it. I have to say something. So, hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. How are you guys today? Sorry we missed you yesterday.
Yeah, it felt so weird not to put up a video yesterday, but we were just so exhausted. And we are going through Jackson, Mississippi right now. We actually love Mississippi. Mississippi is just loaded with beautiful, nice, friendly people and tons of just gorgeous land.
It does. It has nice land, nice weather, nice people. Mississippi has been a very pleasurable experience.
It has, but we're going to actually talk about something different. We're going to talk about elves and the reality of elves and, you know, who or what they were/are. How did they get here even, so to speak?
Right. You know, that's a really good question. How did they get here? So when I asked, how did elves get here? They showed me this dark hole, like deep space, and that's all I could get. I couldn't really get a place or anything. All I kept getting was deep space. And then Mike chimes in and he says through a wormhole, and that made perfect sense.
Yeah, because we were asking, okay, so are elves, you know, beings that are indigenous to Earth or not, was part of the question, because it's fascinating. I've been driving and listening to ancient mythologies, and it's fascinating how they're, especially in the Norse mythologies and the Germanic traditions, they are tied in with the Seer, with the sky gods. So it got me wondering, are we talking about beings that are not really like per se elemental beings, but actually beings that maybe didn't even come from here? So then Cindy was actually napping while I was listening to all the mythology, and it got me, you know, asking that question. So then when she woke up, asked her to try to find out what the guides say is the origin of the elven race, and that's what we ended up getting, that the ones that are here on the earth plane, and there are still some here. By the way, as far as densities go, they're like able to move between 4th, 5th, and 6th. So that's really curious, because that would make perfect sense that they were here in the golden age when we were actually in the 5th density, and then we lost our ability to see them. Not so much they went away, but we lost our ability as we fell from 5th density down into 3rd. And so, you know, that all made perfect sense to me.
Exactly. You know, and when I did get the information about how they got here, they were showing me it was a small group of beings. It was probably 10 to 15, and it wasn't anything that was supposed to happen. It was more of an accident how they landed here, almost like a crash landing. They didn't not intend to be here, and from that little small group, 10 to 15 beings, they grew. And there's also interbreeding. So I thought that was really curious too.
Yeah, interbreeding with humans, as maybe even as well as other humanoid beings on the different densities here on Earth. And again, you know, the thought is, and I feel that when we're talking about like Lemuria, Mu, we're talking about 5th density culture, civilization, and then we fell backwards as the Atlantean times and into these modern times. We're on our return trip now, as we're, you know, and some think we have left the Kali Yuga, and if we look at Sri Yuga Tswar, you know, we're already, you know, moving on up through the yugas.
And what I thought was most curious about these beings is their power and their knowledge of power, and how, you know, they grow up with it, and they're very full of tenacity. They are very feisty beings. You know, they don't take no for an answer. They can be little tricksters, but they can really adapt to Well, anywhere, anywhere. They have the ability to shrink their bodies. They have the ability to make themselves bigger. They do move through inner earth, and there's just so many things that they can do, and they do it well.
Yeah, and she got too that they are very formidable to the Draco because of their abilities.
Right. The best thing that they do to avoid them is to not need them, so don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to need, the medical system. Don't put yourself in a situation where you need to go to the grocery store and buy food. We all need to become more self-sufficient, and that way we're not under their control.
And they understand this as well. And so, what we got was that they're very, very familiar with the Draco, with the reptilians, with that whole power structure. And, that power structure perhaps is pervasive in many places, as we've gotten that there are the counterparts to the archangels, in the archons. And then there is this black dragon AI that kind of rules over all of that. The archons, the Draco, the reptilian hybrids, the grays, both the tall and the short. And of course, there are always beings that make choices to go the other way and break off, if perhaps from the power of being under the control of these dark energies of all races as well.
Most definitely, and that's something that's really, really important that we start to understand. And I do feel in many ways that they want to help humanity in the sense where they can't make themselves known, but they can inject ideas on how to become more self-sufficient and just more self-reliant, so we're not under control.
Yeah, so it's so interesting that we see so many of the bases in myths and legends are really based on reality. When you look at what they use as far as like the draconian AI reptilian mindset and programming, it's all about basically going and pulling us in by our lower base desires, by things like laziness, greed, ego, all those type of things. Truly, we could equate that to the devil and the satanic way of things. Always just trying to work on the ego, work on our laziness, get us to give in. It's just easier not to resist, that type of thing. So it really put some scenes from Tolkien in my mind, and I just asked Cindy, I said, how about orcs? Are they real too?
No, those are nasty things. When I went to look at what those were, those are just very aggressive, very mean, very just in cannibalistic too. I just don't have a lot of nice things to say about them, and I know we're a positive channel, but goodness sake, when I went to go look at those things, just nothing really positive came in.
And you also got that, I said, are they always subservient to the Draco and the reptilian way? And you said it's just easier for them. That their vibrations just align with the draconian way.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is. It's like they just fall into lockstep with them.
So, again, these myths and legends, they really do have a basis in reality. And now when we could conceive of things, that there are different forms of humanoid life all around the multiverse on different densities as well, it all makes sense. It really makes sense. And then the reality that some beings are very good at understanding the laws of the universe and manipulating that reality so they can appear and disappear at will to our human eyes.
Absolutely. And what I thought was really cute, like when I was looking at them, channeling them, they kept showing me that yes, they do have pointy ears.
Yeah, she kept getting the pointy ear thing. I've known a few people that do have kind of pointy-ish ears too, but there again, the shape, right? The star. If we look at the pentagram, the star, that's representative of the microcosm in many ways, as well as you could look at it as being a representation of the macrocosm from the point of view of the four elements. with the spirit overriding on top, spirit descending into the four elements in a manifest way, and then also the humanoid shape, the fact that there's 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, and that head, and that body might be reptilian, it might be avian, it might be basically of a fish type being, but it's the pattern that we see throughout the multiverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a very, very common pattern, we should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just seems to work. It goes with everything that we know.
Yeah, it lends itself to the use of tools and of building things, and eventually creating perhaps starships, and on other levels creating a Merkaba would be something you wouldn't necessarily need that form for. And again, the Merkaba is symbolized by the 6-pointed star, the macrocosm.
Mm-hmm. And these beings, they can master their surroundings, from 4th, 5th, and 6th, which I thought was pretty miraculous. But they've done a lot of work. They know how to do it.
And it's interesting too, because we know we're starting the ascending path again. And so that means that more and more people, their abilities are coming on as your DNA is coming together, and you're going to be seeing these beings. Many, many people will. And, of course, it depends on a lot of variables. If, people will succumb to pressure because it's the easier thing to do, and perhaps allow something to enter their body that is going to modify things, so to speak, then maybe you won't see them, because you're going to be still locked into a smaller bandwidth. As we've talked about, reality